Hey, where are we today?
We are on Rodeo Drive, but overall the Beverly Hills Triangle.
And we're here to walk, learn, soak in all of the retail. We're also going to be meeting up with some friends who are local market experts.
I'm Taylor Coyne.
And I'm James Cook, and we both research retail and real estate for JLL. You're listening to Where We Buy, the show about the things we buy and the places we buy them. So let's go meet up with our friends.
Houman Mahboubi. I head the high-end retail division of JLL for the Southwest region.
Greg Briest, landlord and tenant representation for the urban high street retail in Los Angeles.
Devin, Klein. I work with Houman Mahboubi on the high street retail team here in Los Angeles, and I specialize in agency representation.
You guys are on the front line of probably one of the most important retail markets in the world, I would say, right? So what kind of activity are you seeing right now?
Usually, retail becomes dire when there's a recession on a global level. It's not the case right now. So the retail that you see is dire. It's really to a selected few. But these companies are companies that have been taken over for the most part by private equity firms that are swimming these companies in debt, overexpansion very quickly, want to quadruple profits in a very short time. And with retail, you really can't do that. Retail has to be nurtured and nourished. It's a process. And if you take that process on in an organic way, retail will generally flourish, especially when the economy is doing well. Generally, 90% of my work is landlord, and occasionally 10% is a combination thereof because of the fact that the companies that ask me to represent them generally want to be in Beverly Hills. So because it's in my own backyard, it's very easy for me to be able to do tenant work when it comes to BH because of my relationships with my landlords.
Tell me a little bit about your background with Beverly Hills. You're pretty deep into the world. How did that happen?
Well, I grew up there. I went to school there. I was raised there. It's where we first moved when we came to the States back in 1978. I'd come here every summer for camp anyway before moving permanently as a result of a revolution taking place.
Where are you originally from?
Iran,
okay.
Tehran, Iran. The specific summer of 1978 became a permanent vacation, unbeknownst to all of us. But I grew up here. I grew up in a real estate family. It's part of my pedigree. It's what I was really born into. It's what I know and what I learned by being with my father and my uncles. And I would always intern for them. So it became a very natural transition for me to choose this as my career. Retail, because my family themselves not only were always in retail, but they owned retail stores. They had the Versace franchise when it was born in 1980. We had the first Ricci in Beverly Hills and all of the LA area back in 1982. We had YSL in the 70s. My family also began the Bijan boutique back in 1976. So it was really a natural fit for me to do that. And that's how I chose to specialize in the high-end retail world of the real estate market.
Could you tell us a little bit about the kinds of tenants that are showing interest right now?
Yes, you have the jewelry world, watch world, ultra-luxury women's apparel, ultra-luxury high-end, clothing in general. Those are the brands or the type of retail that's really still showing interest in opening and expanding. And brands that we always talk about that primarily have never been to the Los Angeles market or the US market. These include Australian brands, French brands, other European brands. But for the most part, the high-end luxury world is still strong.
Do you ever go on trips where you're scouting out new tenants to potentially bring back, new retailers to bring back to California?
It depends on the project and assignment. When a landlord has a project and a bunch of vacancies, we will go to different cities and countries to scout for retailers that are not currently here.
We just came back from New York, actually, for that specific purpose, to scout new tenants. you know that you've got to plan a few trips. If you're in this business, you know you got to do a few of those New York trips every year. It makes all the difference in the world.
Now, would you consider New York to be the feeder market to the U.S. before LA?
Generally speaking, yes. It's really the epicenter of the retail world for the U.S. It is. Most of the brands like to be there first before coming to Los Angeles, but you have rare instances where that's not always the case.
I think some of those cases that Houman might be talking about are brands that come out of places like Australia, per se, that have a better alignment with Los Angeles as opposed to some of the high-end European brands, which typically want to test out New York first before they'll test out Los Angeles.
It's interesting, and what we're seeing now that Los Angeles has become quite the epicenter over the last few years because of the tremendous amount of money that is poured into Los Angeles, is you're seeing a lot of food and beverage operators expand in Los Angeles first. Whereas, before in much, the same cases as retail and high street retail, you would see them open up shop in New York or Chicago or San Francisco or Miami first and then make their way out to Los Angeles. Now you're seeing people open up their first operations all over Los Angeles.
Overall, rents are lower in the LA area than they are in New York.
They've dropped anywhere from 20 to 30%.
In most of America, rents haven't fallen, but in markets like, New York and LA, at least in Manhattan, and the hot spots here in LA, it seems like rents got driven up too high and now they're coming back down. Is that?
That's correct. And that's twofold. One is landlords just kept on raising the rents, thinking that the retail would continue to be able to pay those rents because the economy, again, is strong and it's healthy. So it's a natural course of rents rising is in that way. And the other thing is the collapse of the financial world in terms of the private equity and the expansion of all these retailers who are, again, drowning in debt. So those two factors have led. But New York, again, being the epicenter of expansion to other cities, when you're struggling in New York, you're going to put on the brakes. The epidemic began in New York.
I imagine that tourism is a major driver for luxury retail in Southern California.
Mm-hmm. Tourist traffic has not fallen. It's been pretty steady, especially this year. I mean, 2017, China and Europe and the U.S. have respectively each been spending 27 to 33% more than they did in all of 2016, and we're only halfway through the year. I would say the biggest sector is Chinese, but the Koreans are very strong in that as well. There's a lot of money coming from there, and Singapore, and then Japan takes the fourth place.
Beverly Hills does lots of big events for the Chinese New Year and at some of the other points during the year.
They really go out of their way to cater to the tourism that comes to the States.
A lot of the retailers try and work hand in hand with a lot of the different tour guides as well, who can help bring people over to the area and help them bring the streets. And most of the retailers will try to do their best as well to accept credit cards like Union Pay that the Chinese card carriers bring.
And the hotels in Beverly Hills from June to September, they're 100% full.
Talk us through talk us through the Beverly Hills Triangle. What's the market like? Is there a certain spot that everybody wants to be in?
Well, the spot that the whole world knows about is Rodeo Drive, obviously. Rodeo Drive is the creme de la creme. One can even say that it's the street of the world. It's a 3-block stretch. It's got some of the biggest names in the luxury world on there. It's a street that everyone wants to be a part of. Whether you make money or not is not the major factor because it's more of a marketing play. It's a billboard play. But when you are on Rodeo Drive, you're making a huge statement. It's like being in the big leagues. But Beverly Hills as a whole is a fascination to everyone. Whether it's the restaurants, the entertainment, the various streets. Like Cannon is Restaurant Row now. Like I would say, 70% of the street is restaurants. But then again, you have great streets like Brighton Way, and North Beverly Drive, South Beverly Drive, which caters to all the specialty stores and the local community. You find a lot of stores there that you won't find elsewhere. So you've got a great mix. It's like being in a village of its own that entertains you with the Annenberg Center. You've got the various hotels. You've got the agencies.
You've got Bedford Drive, which houses some of the top surgery centers and doctors and plastic surgeons in the whole entire world.
One thing obviously everybody has seen is the change from Robertson Boulevard to Melrose, or brands like that are moving to other locations, like even the Arts District in downtown Los Angeles. You'll see a brand like Philip Lim, who is long tenured on Robertson Boulevard, move all the way down to the Arts District to create a whole brand new studio down there. So I think LA as a whole is a really just unique and interesting environment where you're going to see everything stretching from downtown to Malibu that you can't really get anywhere else in the country at the moment. That's anywhere from a 45-minute to an hour-and-a-half stretch, depending on traffic. You've got something for everybody all over the place.
And it's interesting, whereas a lot of brands were looking to either move their stores outside of Beverly Hills or open up an additional store outside of Beverly Hills, and go to like Melrose Place or somewhere in West Hollywood, you now have a lot of brands that are moving back into Beverly Hills.
E-commerce is really scaring people more than it should, because it's really only 9.5% of what's really going on. But brick and mortar will always be a must. If you want to be a legitimate brand, if you want to be a player in the retail world, you have to have physical presence. You have to take into effect that people have to physically, with the 5 senses, see that you exist, that you're present, that you're interacting. People can never lose that experience, and that is a must.
Do people buy luxury online, or does it have to?
You really can't buy ultra luxury online. It doesn't even exist. Your mid-range, yes. Maybe a few items here and there, but for the most part, you're not going to have, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not going to have a Louis Vuitton on Amazon or...
No, the only reality is that, when you're talking about the ultra luxury world, brands like Louis Vuitton and Gucci, you're not going to be shopping online for those kinds of brands. The high-end luxury watch world does offer a little bit of an online presence in comparison to the high-end bag and clothing world, but most anybody who's going to be shopping for anything Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Prada, Christian Dior, they want to go to the streets. They want to have the experience in there. They want to go into the brick and mortar maisons, the house of, and really do it all out.
Sounds like if you're going to spend that much money, you want the experience. You want to be treated like somebody, you want the whole, the attendant.
There's nothing like the experience of going into the store, touching the merchandise, smelling it, feeling the people around you, the energy, the experience. That gives you endorphins, like exercising. There's some things that can never be replaced. That's part of our existence. It's like breathing. You can't always breathe on an oxygen tank. You want the free air. You want to experience life. Brick and mortar provides that for you.
What more can we say? that was it. Like, that's the soundbite of the century. You smell that bag. I want to make... All right, so we're at the corner of Santa Monica and Rodeo, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, and we're going to start at one end. We're in front of Brooks Brothers, and we're going to follow in the footsteps of the retail giants. Houman has gotten me very excited about the future of flagship luxury retail. What's this?
D squared.
Brioni, Ralph Lauren.
It means a lot when you have an address on Rodeo Drive. Whether or not you're selling a lot, it's a status symbol for sure.
Rodeo Drive is one of the markets, one of the prime urban corridors that we wrote about in our recent city retail report. And you can check out all of the markets that we wrote about and download that report for free at jllretail.com. Just click on the Retail Intelligence link. So we're in front of La Perla. So what do you think about the mix of shoppers? It's Monday afternoon. It's what, about 4 o'clock? Mostly tourists, would you say?
100%. A lot of Hollywood tour buses. Some tourists with bags of things, but mostly tourists just taking pictures of different buildings.
There's House of Bijan. So we're at the intersection of Brighton Way and Rodeo, and we're across the street from Chanel.
And in 2015, Chanel bought the building. It had been leasing it for years, but it finally bought the building for $152 million in 2015. That's more than $13,000 per square foot. At the time, it was the high watermark for retail sales in all of California. And last year in 2016, the House of Bijan store sold for $122 million, which was over $19,000 a square foot. Almost $6,000 more per square foot for a property that is 2 storefronts away from the Chanel building.
We were just in Prada. It's pretty big. There were 3 floors, and each floor seemed to have its own distinct theme. The men's floor on the top, I was just remarking, it sort of had this feel of, reminded me of a DC-3, which is like a World War II airplane. It's like all metal, almost an Art Deco feel. The glass windows on the second floor, just a whole series of large window panes surrounding this a large wooden staircase, were each coming clouded and unclouded in succession.
The glass would fog up and then fade and become transparent again.
You went in, you tried to buy a dress, they wouldn't sell it to you because they thought you didn't have money.
Yeah.
You went back later, told them it was a big mistake.
Exactly. They thought I was riffraff.
You know I was doing a Pretty Woman thing there a minute ago.
Yeah, no,
okay, I just want to make sure.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's been quite a day. We've seen a lot of retail. We learned a lot from Houman and the team. Any final thoughts?
Beverly Hills, clearly still one of the top retail corridors in the whole country, and a lot of exciting things happening. If you want to see more retail research, go to jllretail.com and click on Retail Intelligence. Subscribe to Where We Buy on iTunes. Got a retail question? Tweet at James on Twitter at James D. Cook. Our theme music is Little Lily Swing by Tritachyon.
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 Tritachyon, under Creative Commons 4.0 license. Tell me about this tea. What's the recipe?
It's a Persian blend. It's a combination of Darjeeling with Earl Grey, touch of rose water, cardamom, and the whole idea of it is that when you drink tea, you have to really feel the essence of not only the taste, but the feeling that you get and the aroma of it. And the cardamom helps you digest the food that you've eaten prior. So it's a soothing of the intestines and the body or bodily organs that allow you to digest the food. I take a lunchbox with me to provide me with the little amenities that allow me to perform at my peak being here at the office. And tea is one of them.
This tea is excellent. What else is in that bag?
Well, you've got some alkaline water in there. You've got some fresh organic blackberries. You've got a protein bar, which would be a great complement to any cappuccino that you have later in the day. Beautiful roasted lemon almonds, which is my colleague's favorite. Fresh raw almonds with some nice organic lemon juice spread over it, and then roasted with some salt, organic kosher salt.
Deeply roasted.
Ooh.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
So
Very
we're gonna
fragrant.
Start with one. Oh, it's so lemony. Wow.